Welcome to today's edition of Coffee with Guillem. I'll be dwelling on the Croatian golden generation. They're gone, and it's sad. And on Luka Modric, he'll get the right homage in case he doesn't play for Croatia anymore. But first, let me tell you where I am, here in Palamos. Hello. There's a couple of things I want to talk to you about today. One is Luka Modric and the other one England. But first Luka Modric. Why? Because with the result of the England game, well, that means that Croatia are out. They won't be able to qualify to the next round, and it feels like the end of the golden generation that took them to the 2018 World Cup final, 2022 semi-finals, and being third eventually, beating Morocco, and to the finals of the Nations League 2023, and perhaps the end of Luka Modric as an international. I don't think he wants to accept it. Quite clearly, I feel he will still want to be involved, but isn't it a good time to actually give him homage? We enjoyed so much having him as a Croatia international. We will see him still as a Real Madrid player, of course, in his new role, one that he hasn't accepted gladly. He was told at the beginning of last season by Ancelotti, I don't think you're going to play a lot. Kroos was told the same. Kroos beat that. But I think Modric realised that his time as a starter for the big games is going with Real Madrid, but was desperate to stay, and of course he's going to stay at least one more year. But yeah, there are players that give you happiness by seeing their elegance, their decision making, how he manages with so little to do so much. And that's basically what my article for the BBC is about, from goat herder to icon, always against the odds, individually and collectively as a nation as well. Croatia, remember, only 3.8 million inhabitants, and yet so competitive at sports. Why? Because it just allows them to fight for the country, allows them to put out there the country of Croatia, so the world gets to know them. There's that extra bit that they carry with them, and Modric certainly has that. So in behalf of all the journalists and all those that have enjoyed him, there was an Italian journal that actually put in wonderful way what we all feel about Luka Modric.
Good evening, Luca, from an Italian journalist. I wanted to thank you for everything that you've shown not only tonight but throughout your career. Once again, you signed off as a top-class player, scoring despite having missed a penalty. I just wanted to say this to you. I'd like to ask you to never retire from your playing career, because you're one of the finest players that I've ever commentated on. Thank you.
Grazie. Hvala puno na lijepim riječima i stvarno iz dubine srca se zahvaljujem. Ja bih volio da mogu igrati vječno nogomet, ali sigurno će doći taj trenutak da ću morat stati. Tako da, ali još ću nastaviti, ne znam koliko, pa ćemo vidjeti, ali hvala stvarno na lijepim riječima.
That was the preview of the last Croatian game. Yeah, it was emotional. Those are things, you're a journalist, you should ask a question. I remind you that we are people, like the players are, and the players like to hear this kind of thing. I couldn't stop myself when I saw Kroos before the championship final. I had the opportunity to have a little one-on-one with him, and I had to tell him that if he's thinking twice about retirement and changes his mind, it's just not a problem. Have a look.
You can change your mind.
About what?
About retiring.
No, it's done. It's done.
If you change your mind, nobody will mind. So you should know that.
Yeah. No, but if once I took a decision, it's done.
But going back to Luka Modric, check the article, because what I have been seeing throughout his career is that he wasn't wanted when he first started in Croatia. Too small. He was sent off loan everywhere. At Spurs at first, I think it was Arsene Wenger who told the journalist privately, and then the journalist has disclosed later that Luka Modric in England, just for that position in the centre midfield, I think he'll be eaten alive by everybody else. And when he arrived to Real Madrid, he was voted the worst signing ever, and yet he's won 6 Champions Leagues. It's all in the article, but the article is based on my time in Sadar this summer. More on that in a few days, because I presented some panels. I spoke to Alessandro Del Piero about his life and did a few other things for an event in Sadar. Sadar is, of course, where Modric was born. I had a lot of chats with people that know Luka Modric, especially with 2 journalists that gave me a lot of insight of what Luka Modric is for the country. I think it will give you a 3-dimensional picture of Luka Modric by listening to both of them.
Luka Modric is the perfect ambassador of Croatia. Why?
Well, I think the first thing is his longevity and adaptiveness. And what people in Croatia value the most, from my point of view, about Luka Modric is his pathway. It kind of embodies this outsider model of Croatia, being on the world stage, small country and outsider. So is Luka Modric. His football path is very unorthodox. He wasn't someone like Zaire Emery now, as you see it, or Xavi Simons, that were global stars with 14. Luka Modric was never that. Basically, being an underdog. Being an underdog at every point of your development, being always doubted, being always someone who was never perceived as a star because of his looks, because he's an introvert. So this is, I believe, the main point where so many people can be Luka Modric.
And what kind of leader is he in that group, in the national side?
That's the thing that's really coming out only for the last couple of seasons, because everybody, I think that if you remember, FIFA did a documentary on Croatian national team, the captains, and that talk between him and Livakovic. I think that was actually the first moment that people kind of get the feeling how big of a leader he is, because he's not the one that's going to be shouting, because he's not the one that's doing the last thing on the pitch. I think he's doing it on his way, quietly but effectively, the way that he plays actually the game of football.
The story of Luka Modric was also told in a different format. When I was on CBS doing the documentary Destination Paris, I went to Sadar and I went to his house, and it was an unbelievable experience. We put a clip out on one of the CBS Champions League live days, and you should have a look at it.
If you think of players from this season's Champions League, you'll think, I'm sure, it's Luka Modric, who is from here, Zadar, Croatia. And I come here to find out more about him and to talk to 2 of his contemporaries, also 2 very successful people to come from this area. What does he represent in people's eyes, Luka Modric, in Croatia?
For me, a god. It's a god in Luka Modric.
The 3 of you are children of war. What are your memories of it?
It's living with no electricity, no water, running to the basement when the siren starts.
It's definitely something that changes you for the rest of your life and kind of makes you the person you are. Zadar is fantastic and it's really a marvelous city, but if you really want to get into the heart of the Luka Modric story, we're going to have to take you to where he's originally from, and I have to tell you, it's quite different from Zadar.
From this tiny, little, remote place, greatness can be, strangely enough, produced.
One of the darkest periods in the whole history of his family came during the war. His own grandfather, whom he was very close with, got assassinated in front of the house. Right here, where we stand. The fact that a guy came from such humble beginnings, and now that he's on top of the sports world, to see him being the kind of modest guy and remain with both feet on the ground, you can tell that this house and the very beginnings have a lot to do with it.
Wow, there are it's incredible shots, Guillem.
Did you see the silence in the studio and how they, when he came back to the studio, everybody just raised themselves. It was so absorbed in the story of Luka Modric. As I say, a story against the odds, like it is of Croatia. Less than 4 million people, and yet so good at collective sports, or even that individual sports. And that's down to that sense of camaraderie, of being all from the same place, of all fighting with the same spirit. It's fantastic to see maximizing the potential. Unlike England. England will be a team of moves. There will be some clever moves, quality moves, individual moves as well, that will make them win games. And the side of the draw now for them is it's easier than it could have been. The thing is, Netherlands, they may meet Austria in the semi-finals perhaps. So you are talking about a real good opportunity for England if they get things a little bit better, or if those moves come more often, then to go far in the tournament. Quite clearly, Gareth Southgate has decided that the way he came to the tournament, not just the style, but the players, the names, are the ones that he's going to back up until the end. Which means that he's gone for names and not for players that fill a role. And that will be something that, even if Manu becomes a regular now, England would suffer with. I believe Bellingham and Foden cannot play together. I believe that you need players that attack the space. Too many want the ball to the feet. From Harry Kane, Foden, Bellingham, Declan Rice, Manu, there's not enough runs in behind, and Gordon will give you that, for instance, and Saka doesn't give you that at the moment, because when he gets the ball he's surrounded by players. He's so slow, the build up, that he doesn't have the chance to actually make a run or use the ball cleverly. He just doesn't have the chance. When the ball gets to him, 2 or 3 players are with him. So everything will have to be done quicker. They have to be more aggressive with the ball, but if they're not doing it, it must be for a reason. A physical reason mostly. So you won't see the best England, but you may still see them going far because they have that individual quality. They seem to improvise moves. They seem to not to have all the same idea what has to happen. And I think it has to do with the fact that names have been favoured instead of players that fill a role. Anyway, that's it for today. I'm going to enjoy a little bit more Palamos, and I'll be talking to you tomorrow.